Hey guys, what's going on? Back in the garage again. And we just got done with the transmission service on the Magnum here. As you can see behind me, it's still in the garage. I just pulled it right back in. I thought, a better time to do something than now. I've got to get it done before I can move on to other projects anyways. So, we are going to be doing all of the bushings in the front suspension. So that's going to be control arms, top and bottom. It's going to be shock bushings, top and bottom, as well as the, what do they call those? Mount insulators, shock insulators, spring insulators. The sway bar bushings and new end links for the sway bar. We're gonna reuse the original control arms. We're just gonna press out the old bushings and put in new ones. And as far as I can tell, everything, the ball joints still seem like they're in good condition. So the boots aren't ripped. None of the boots are ripped on anywhere at all. There's one. Let's see, that's a tie rod though. And yeah, it's been leaking, and that's why we're going to be doing the seal kit, but we'll do that at a later time. Because I also might have a bad wheel bearing. There was movement in the tire, but I couldn't see it in any of the ball joints. So I'm gonna get Mike over here to help me wiggle it while I look really closely with a light, because it's kind of hard to tell trying to wiggle the tire and look, because your whole body's shaking. Yeah, that's where the movement's coming from now. So I need a second pair of hands, and then I'll figure out if it's the wheel bearing or not. Since I had Mike here, I had the tire put back on and had him shake the tire so I could try to find out where the play was coming from. Before I took everything apart, side to side, I could feel a little clunk. So, but I couldn't tell where it was coming from. So, Mike, if you will, sir.
All right.
Go ahead, just a little wiggle back and forth. Now, I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Let's see if I can get this to lay still. Yeah, it's ever so slight, but it's in the tie rod. But since we're doing anything, regardless, I think it's still the easiest way is to remove the knuckle. The first thing we're going to do is remove the links from the sway bar down there and leave them attached up here so we don't get them confused yet. That'll actually probably be the last thing we do. So we'll remove them from the sway bar, then we'll remove the sway bar completely from both sides and lay it on the ground to get it out of the way. Then we will remove this front control arm completely, and then we will loosen, let's see, that bolt. We'll just break that bolt loose. That's the rear control arm ball joint. And then break this one loose, pull the control arm out, then we can just slide both that ball joint off the bottom and this ball joint out. So we loosen both of them and knock them both loose. And then at the same time, you slide them out of their spots. You just bring it right on down. Then you can remove the top arm with those two bolts and get it out of your way so you don't bonk your head when you go to remove this nut and bolt and that nut and bolt in the back over there, and then that arm will come out, and then we'll replace everything on this side at once. Yeah, dude.
Using bungee cords or whatever?
Just grabbed a piece of baling wire.
Ow.
So yeah, those are shot. I'm glad I'm replacing those. Hey, you want to hold the other side of this sway bar up so it doesn't come slamming down? Taking you down. I had to reach over the camera. So just to let you know, the caliper bolts were 18 millimeter. These bolts here were 15. Those were 10s, 15s, and these bolts here are 21 millimeter. And so were the end-link bolts. They were also 21 millimeter. And it's got those ribs going down the middle, which, you know, the bolt sits in there, but it's pretty sloppy. Even all the way in, it can slop around. The energy suspension that came to replace that is this. Hey guys, good morning. So take a look at this. We've got, whoa, your old bushing and the shell. Okay, well apparently you're supposed to heat up the bushing, punch out the rubber. Man, that thing's shot, isn't it? It's supposed to be connected, I think. But you heat it up and you punch it out of the metal shell. This shell is supposed to be left pressed into the control arm, or the tension strut. The front one's the tension strut, the rear one's the control arm. And the only way it made sense to me was to do it like the picture, and I thought, well, what if that is supposed to go over the shell? You know what I mean? And I'm like looking at the spacing, and those, and you see how this shell sticks out further than that shell. More of it is sticking out over here. Well, I'll leave that there. You come over here and look at another set. Yeah, let's see, the groove on one side is only about that deep. Right there. Groove on this side is a lot deeper, as you can see. It bottoms out. This one does not. So like the instructions say, a 2846 on the outer and 2847 on the inner. And see how the cups are sticking further out on the inner than they are on the outer? Well, that is so they slide over. You got to get the right cups on the right side so they slide in the right amount. And it just, so then that actually will sit inside the block, inside this cross member, just like that, instead of just that little bit. And you got that, or that. That's going to be a huge difference. So, and I've already busted loose the bolts here. You can see I've knocked that one loose and I've knocked this bottom one loose. So, and I've got the caliper hung up on the side of the shock for now. Let's pull this guy off and then I'll move the caliper and hang it over here. And then we can change, get this other arm out and change the bushings in that. So if you look closely, that nut is actually tack welded, but you can just remove the bolt. All right, I had to move us out of the rain. It started raining on us, and then the phone died. Or the phone died first, and then it started raining. I'm not sure, but I was having trouble getting this thing to fire. Oh, snap, crackle, pop. There we go. I punched it with this guy, knocked the center out. Actually came out pretty easy. And then you just keep lighting the rubber on fire till it burns out of there. And just like the other side, I've got this one all cleaned up. You can use, what I used was one of these wire wheels on a drill. You can get these kits at, I don't know, your local, well, I got mine from a Harbor Freight. I don't know what everybody else has in their towns, but I just picked up one of these cheap kits. And that one that I had on the drill fits in there perfectly. Alright, so I found another use for my homemade kiln. It's a lot faster than using that blue propane torch. Just fired that up, set that on there for like a couple minutes on each side, just kept flipping it over, and that center piece just started falling out. It was super easy. Saved a ton of time doing it that way. Now I just got that one to do. And these guys, I'm gonna have someone press that out with a bench press for the lower shock mount bushings. The rental tools that you get just don't open up wide enough, you know, to be able to put a big spacer on both sides of that and push it out. I tried it last night at work, and there's just not enough pieces there, or not the right pieces. So I'm gonna have to pay someone to push out those lower shock bushings, but we'll get it done. So that fast. I got the other one started, and it's burning away before the other one even finished. And let's see, there is a trick to it. As this burns off, you got to keep hammering the excess shit off, and then that keeps it burning. We're gonna let those burn all the way out, then we'll wire brush them and take it to the local machine shop and get those bottom bushings pressed out, because the sleeves in those ones too have to come all the way out. Not like all the other ones where we left the shells. Those shells have got to come out. Okay, these are pretty much all the way burned out. So now we just take this guy. That looks amazing. And a little more fire turns the rest of that stuff right to ash. And that's how you clean those guys up. Now, I noticed with this thing, you start spinning in one direction for a while, all the wires kind of fold over and they don't scrub as well. So all you got to do is switch directions, and then it's like grabs in there hella good, like it was brand new again. So just switch directions on those things every once in a while. Works a lot better that way. So it is Saturday right now, and I don't have any machine shops open here in town to push these out. So it looks like this might have to wait until Monday. All right, so I just got back from work and used the rental tool there to compress the springs, and I got the top bushings replaced. Those are all brand new. And when I took them apart, I realized, oh, there's rubbers on the bottom too that I never came across. So, oh well. Maybe later if I find them. I don't know. I couldn't find them and I never came across them, so I don't know. Finding these top ones were really hard. Finding these bushing mounts were really hard. I actually had to go on Energy Suspension's website and find that company called White Line, and the only place that I found had those factory bushings as a polyurethane bushing. But now it's time to move on to the control arm bushings and set those guys on fire. Let's get the old kiln fired back up. All right, I think that's got enough juice, huh? There they go, a little bit of heat and they burst right into flames. We're gonna let those melt away and come back to it. That's kind of crazy. That just fell out. It just expands and shit just falls out. That's nuts. This is what it's gonna look like when it's done burning. It's not all out yet, but you take something like this and it's hard to do with one hand. It falls out. And then if there's any that's not just falling off like this, you just put it back over the heat again. Take that wire brush to it. That's a thumbnail right there. Let those cool off and I'll wire brush them. I'm gonna let that burn just for fun. Alright, so I've got the control arms lubed up, wire brushed, covered in grease. And this stuff is, again, it's nasty. But I got everything fully lubricated. So, except for these. Dang it. Alright, let's see if I can get these guys pressed in. Oh my goodness. I thought that might be a problem getting it, that lip into that groove. I was watching. Whoa! It slides in pretty easy until you get to there. Ugh. Wow. Okay. That one was in and it took all my strength to get it into that groove. But that is sweet looking. Man, that looks good. Gonna get the other ones pressed in. And Monday we'll get those over here switched out. If you can see that, we'll get those switched out with the new ones. And but for now we can get everything but those control arms, the rear control arms on each side in. Morning. It's Sunday morning. Like mid-morning, almost lunchtime, huh?
Almost lunchtime.
Right. So, and I've already gotten to a point on this car where I can't go any further until Monday because there's no machine shops open today. At least in this little rinky-dink town. But here's what we're looking at so far. We got the forward tension strut in. The control arms in. And it is all tightened up actually. Because these are so well lubed that you can move them. They're not going to bind. They still slide pretty easy with the grease on there. So I just got to get the rear lower control arm on both sides, and then I can put in the sway bar and attach it there to the links. But I can't put the sway bar on until I get the lower control arm because the bolts hide behind the sway bar mount. So, waiting on the world, I guess. And then I will, once I get the machine shop to punch these out and put in the new ones, then we can slap it all together, put on the sway bar, go get an alignment, and this thing will finally be done. I got the driver's side all done. No, I don't have rotors, obviously. The calipers aren't tightened on there. They're just kind of sitting there so they don't have to hang from a wire anymore. And like I said, this thing is tightened up as well. So that's gonna be it for today. We'll see you guys in the morning or tomorrow whenever I get to the machine shop. Okay, so it's Tuesday morning now, and I've got the lower control arms in. I got them back from the shop, from the machine shop. It only took like an hour and a half, and I got them both installed on the car. And then I went to go slide the washers in there. They're supposed to go on either side of that bushing down here. This is the new bushing, the lower control arm, new bushing. But those big old washers are supposed to go on the outside of either side, of both sides, in the bracket though. The problem is, because I've already got the other side done, you can see there is not room in there. Maybe you can shove one in there like I did on the other side, but once I got one in, you couldn't get the other one in. So I tried grabbing it with a crescent wrench and just, you know, yanking out, but that was only bending the bottom part of the ear. So I tried something a little different. This I used these two sockets here as a spacer because it's all I had. You know, if you've got a solid hunk of a bar aluminum, or not aluminum, but just a bar of steel or something. And actually this would have worked good too. I tried this first, just putting the socket inside that hole, but this is a 1/2-inch drive and it was barely too small, and I kind of bent a couple of the threads on the other side. But I cleaned them up and it's all good. It's all together. I'll show you just real quick. You can see that it's together, washers are in, and there's no damage. So I got pretty lucky. When you put the bolt in, it all squeezed it back together. It's all lubed up. And those are the only two bolts. I don't know if I mentioned, but all these bolts are tightened already because they slide pretty easy. And you can still move the control arm up and down by hand. So I'm pretty confident that when I lower the vehicle, nothing's gonna bind. Just not sure about this bottom shock not binding, so that is the one I'm gonna wait until there's load on before I really tighten those down. So here, I'll show you how I did that, how I spreaded them apart real quick. So I'm just gonna put the bolt in backwards through the nut that's welded on there, and put this spacer in between the ears. This bolt will rest right inside of there, just perfect, locking it in place and keeping these two together. I'll tighten it down and it'll spread the ears apart, hopefully. I'm pretty sure it'll work because it worked on the other side. Okay, so there's the nut, or the bolt, and let's see, there's the sockets sitting in there. Got it up against there, so I'm just gonna tighten it up to make it spread apart. And yeah, I lubed up the threads with that grease and wire brush the thread, so this goes as easy as possible. And I ran out of threads there, so we'll see if that's enough. I think what I did last time, that inner socket I actually had flipped around, so I had about 1/4 inch more of thread to use. We're gonna try that real quick. Okay, so that's plenty spread apart now. I got plenty of room on both sides, I believe. Let's see. Let's see if I can do it without shaking the camera. So hopefully that's just enough to slide these washers up in there. Let's see if I can place this camera. Okay, so these washers have sharp edges from when they were stamped. I'm going to lube up the smoother side because I don't want the sharp edges on my bushing. And we're going to start by sliding in this side here and getting the bolt started. Whatever I did was that. There we go. Okay. That one went in super easy. But yeah, if you don't spread these apart and you tried to shove those washers in there, man, I'll tell you what, I spent probably way too much time, a good hour on just the other side, trying to figure out how to spread those apart, or just trying to shove them in there first and wedge them in there using jacks. I even tapped on them with a hammer a little bit to try to get in there, but then I was afraid of ruining my bushings, so that's when I started thinking of how to spread it apart. So in an effort to not gouge this bushing, I'm going to try to shove it in sideways. Oh man, I swear I was cussing and all kinds of angry yesterday evening. Still not enough to get this guy in. Oh, wait, there we go. There we go. Washers are centered. There it is. There it is. This jack stand helps hold the assembly in place. Oh gosh, this thing is about to be done. I'm excited. Okay, that's enough for now. Oh my goodness, is it time to put tires on this thing? No way. I'm not sure how to feel right now. Gosh, I need to take a minute actually, because I've been so stressed out putting this stuff together. I'm gonna go over everything and make sure I didn't forget anything. And then yeah, I'll put the tires on. I'm gonna go get some brake clean because I managed to put some fingerprints all over this rotor. So I'm gonna go take my kid to golf real quick. He's got early morning golf. I gotta go pick him up from school, and we'll help a kid get a scholarship.